That's a slippery slope.
Absolutely. It's no secret that healthcare costs huge money.
Oh, Lord, we know.
Minor illness can wipe out our savings. Long-term illness can set us up for bankruptcy, foreclosure, even loss of our job. And that's what happens, too. When we're having someone at home that we're caring for, someone has to go to work. Sometimes both people have to go to work. And if you have one person that's staying home taking care of the child or themselves, you have one person who's going to work because they're the one that has to keep the machine going. They have to keep the money going, keep the insurance going.
Sure do.
And that can also, that can cause, resentment, especially from the person staying at home. It's like, oh, how dare you leave the house and get away from this when I'm here dealing with that?
Right.
I'm not saying this is what our guests went through, but, this is what myself
some
and
of the general populace goes through. Yeah.
So some tips to help you if you're going through this personally yourself. Number one, get help.
Definitely.
If you get a diagnosis of something, bigger than what you can handle, a life coach is a wonderful help to let you sit down and form a plan.
Sure. And
who's going to be responsible for what, and who do we contact in our family for that kind of help?
Let's move forward.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Number two, keeping your eye on the prize. Don't define your life around the disease. Communicate your feelings, both positive and negative. Talk to each other. Talk to your spouse.
Right.
When you need help, get it. Ask for friends and family to come over with cooking and cleaning. Another thing that's important is acknowledging the emotions that you are feeling. Clarify the triggers, develop alternatives for handling those emotions. Take a break, go somewhere where the disease is not. I know that sounds like difficult.
It does.
But eventually, you have to find a way to get away.
Even just for, just a small break.
For an hour,
Yeah.
and feel guilt-free. Yeah. Absolutely.
Have a conversation with a friend.
Yes. Number 7, live in the moment. Today is a good day as long as someone is alive.
There you go.
And when someone's alive, it's going to be a great day.
Just be thankful for the time you have.
Absolutely. Strive for acceptance. Realize that this is what's happening. We don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know if it's going to be forever. But right now it's happening, and that is going to be the way it is. Use every strategy available. And in fact, Heidi's going to talk about how she came across an alternative healing method accidentally. And this happens, 2 more things very important. Take time for intimacy.
Definitely.
I know there are times when intimacy will seem like it's the last thing that you want to experience, but the bonding is so important, especially, between partners. You're angry, you're frustrated, just holding each other, loving each other, being together. You have to learn to work together as a team and not work together apart. And last, have hope. Have faith. If you don't have a clear belief in your higher power, now is the time to get one and stick to it. Miracles do happen, and that's the basis of Heidi's story on how miracles happen for them. They happen for my daughter and I, and they can happen for other people too.
Miracles do happen, and they're just absolutely awesome.
Yes.
But so this is a lot of information to digest.
It is.
Okay, we'll have all this on our website, as well as, after the show. Millions and millions of people worldwide tell this story every day.
They do.
They deal with depression, chronic fatigue, Epstein-Barr, MS, cancer, autism, and so much more. Okay? We've known Heidi for 10 years and never knew just how much she and her family had been through.
No, I knew it was a lot, but I didn't realize just how traumatic it really is.
They made it through and out the other end, and they're going to give us some good tips. But remember when I said on our first show how that 40% of first marriages end in divorce, 67% in second, 87% in third divorces? How much do you think when you add a long-term illness to it?
I can't imagine.
75% of marriages end when one of the couple gets ill.
Wow. That's just,
Now, and sad, women are 7 times more likely to be abandoned by their husbands than women leaving their husbands due to an illness.
I've heard that. That I have heard when my daughter was ill. I had heard that, yes.
For parents that have a child with a serious medical condition, such as cancer, autism, or other life-threatening issues, the divorce rate can be between 70 and 90%. Whether the child lives or not.
And we're going to get ready to introduce Heidi and her husband now. And Heidi was ill, and all 4 of her children faced critical illness.
Right. Okay, so we want to introduce our guests. And I'd like to remind you that our phone number is 480-409-0773.
Yes.
Now to introduce our guest. Heidi is a mom, published author, educator, guest speaker, and has produced many different kinds of health seminars. She is a leading authority about how nutritional supplements and dietary adjustments can change your life. She has written a book and is currently available for free to all of our listeners at www.myinspiredstory.com. The information will be available on our website as well. She's also has a ton of information there about many health topics, as well as her detailed account of her journey.
Okay, and her husband Rob, he currently works in the finance industry. I can't speak today. In the finance industry, where he has won many awards for his managerial skills and performance. He is also very health conscious, and at 45 years old, he still plays basketball daily at 5:30 a.m. You turned 45. I don't see you out there.
I would strive to do that. I didn't even do it when I was 40.
I know, me neither. Yay, Rob. Okay, he's a wonderful support to Heidi in the work he does, and he's an aspiring leader in his church and community. In fact, both Heidi and Rob are active in their church. Rob coaches basketball, and Heidi works with younger children. So we're going to bring them on the line, and I would like to welcome. Are you guys there? Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, Heidi.
Hello, Rob. How are you guys?
Wonderful.
You guys can go ahead and speak. It's okay. Are you within eye shot of each other so you can signal who's going to talk and who's not, or?
Well, we can get that. We kind of separated rooms so that we wouldn't get feedback, but we'll adjust.
That's okay.
That's okay. So, how are you two doing this evening?
We are so excited. We're just excited to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you here too. So, I wanted to ask you guys. a little bit of background information. How long have you two been married, and when did you guys meet?
Well, I'll take that. We've been married for 24 years. In about a week, we will have been married for 24 years.
Oh, my gosh.
That's great.
And yes, it is. 24 wonderful years, I would say. And just a little bit of our story. When I was 19, it's customary for young men in our church to leave home and serve a 2-year mission to teach others about Christ.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I had been going to Brigham Young University, and I was leaving for Brazil and was going out to see a girl I had been dating before I left for Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And my girlfriend, Becky, was actually one of Heidi's good friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very entertaining story there. And I ended up dating Heidi instead of Becky. And the rest is history there.
And he gets in trouble for telling the rest of the story.
I want to know what the rest of the story is.
I saw you drop off the screen. I was wondering where you were.
And the thing is that my dad had this habit of calling me every Saturday morning at 6:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd been out the night before for the first time, and when my dad called me on Saturday morning, I said, I met the man I'm going to marry.
Wow.
And then after one date, and I started planning out the rest of my life with him in my head.
I
had to wait a few years because he was headed for South America. But when he got back, I married him.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
Well, you kind of know in your heart when you see the man. That's how I felt with Leif when I met him. And even my first husband when I got married, you just look at him and you just know.
Sure do.
It was the smartest thing I ever did.
Yeah,
I can tell you right now.
Well, and your story is absolutely fabulous, and it's just testament to what you two have gone through. Now, I wanted to ask, how many children do you have, and what are their names?
So our oldest is Robbie. He's 21.
Okay.
And then we have Avonlea, who just turned 20.
Wow.
And we have Emery. She's 17 years old. And then we had a little break, and the Kylies are our next oldest at 11 years old, and Jace is the youngest at 9.
Jace, so you have 5 children altogether. My gosh. So let me ask you this: what is it that you both do for work? Heidi, what do you do for work? I'm sorry, Heidi, what do you do for work?
You know what? I actually am staying home with the kids now.
Okay.
That's what I do for my full-time job. But my background is in special education. That's what I studied at Brigham Young University, and then I worked for Provo School District after that for a few years. And then when we had our son Robbie, Rob was still in school, and I had planned on working just a little bit, but he was so seriously ill that I had to quit my job and be a full-time mom at that point.
Right. And what do you do for work, Rob? What do you do?
I work for a brokerage firm. I got my degree in business management, and for about 20 years, for the most part, I've worked for a couple of different brokerage firms.
So your job is pretty demanding. You're someone that has to be at work all the time?
It is, yes.
So I can't imagine what that must have been like, having to go through this.
It was quite stressful, yes.
I know.
Okay, Heidi, after you got married, you started having major health problems. What was happening to you, and what were the symptoms?
Yeah, what was going on? Let's start the story.
Well, it actually happened just very suddenly, because I had been really healthy my whole life, and I woke up it was a Saturday morning, 2 weeks after I got married. Mm-hmm. We were supposed to go to a wedding of one of our closest friends that day, and I could not get out of bed. I couldn't make myself get out of bed for anything, and I didn't understand what was wrong, because that wasn't me. I'd been a notoriously early riser my whole life. My husband used to call it a disease, how early we got up in the morning. and so I kind of had the reverse disease at that point. And then right after that, I got flu symptoms that didn't go away. And for months, I was sleeping anywhere from 16 to 20 hours a day, usually 20.
Oh, my gosh.
Gratefully, it was at the end of the school year, and so I had a summer vacation to try to get my life put back together again before I had to go back to work, because we were young and living paycheck to paycheck.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. This had to be so terrifying, having all these problems. I mean, what was going through your mind at this time?
Well, the thing is, and like I said, I'd never been sick before. When I was a kid and I got sick, my mom took me to the doctor. I got some antibiotics. In a few days, I was just fine. And that's what I thought sickness was. And so Rob took me to the doctor. He took me to the clinic at BYU, and because that's all we could do.
Sure.
And I had a doctor do a few tests. I told him my symptoms, and I'd been really tired. I just could not make myself get out of bed. And I'm telling him about this, and he does his test. The tests come back all negative, and he looks at me, and he calls me a hypochondriac to my face.
Yes, that's very common, very common.
And I didn't know what to do. I mean, what do you do? In my mind, I had no other alternatives. But I knew I wasn't a hypochondriac. I knew that this was not in my head. Mm-hmm. And things just kept getting worse. I just kept getting sicker. And I can remember Rob and I I had walked everywhere. I didn't have a car when I was in college. I walked everywhere. And I remember Robert and I deciding we were going to go outside and take a walk. I walked a half a block, and I thought I was going to die. And we just had to go home after a half a block.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
And so something was really, really wrong with me. And so finally Robert's like, we're going to go back to that clinic, and we're going to get a different doctor. We're going to make him listen to us. And so I went back to the doctor, and I pled with that man. Mm-hmm. I said, I promise you that I am not crazy. I promise you that this is not in my head. You have got to figure out what on earth is wrong with me. And bless his heart, he believed me. Yeah. And I think he did every test known to man on me. I don't know how many vials of blood he took out of me, but he took a lot. And he just did test after test after test. He had us come back a week later. And I heard, and I can still see him and hear him saying this to me, because it's like the sweetest words I've ever heard in my life. As he's flipping through my test results, he looks at me, he said, "No wonder you feel so horrible." Validation. The choirs are singing. I needed to be validated.
Well, no, I can understand that. When my daughter was first sick, and I would have been for 6 months, she kept getting sick and sick. And when she came down with 3 viruses at the same time, I took her to the hospital, to the ER, and I brought her and I sat her down. I said, "I'm not leaving here until you tell me what is wrong with my daughter. I know something is wrong, and I know that it's bad." And I didn't leave. We were there all day, and I said, "Until you tell me." And you have to be an advocate for yourself and for your children, because doctors do sometimes, it's all in your head, it's all this, it's all that. So when that was going on, I wanted to ask Rob, you must have been worried sick,